Is the People's Convoy justified? It's March 2022, and Americans are divided. Let's first dive deeper into the issue.
The People's Convoy has arrived in Maryland.
We're here for lifting mandates and get the Emergency Order Act revoked.
The convoy is a group of American truckers who've been traveling all across the country to protest COVID-19 mask and vaccine mandates.
We've pretty much nailed down exactly how this virus operates, and we'd like to, be able to go back and live the way we were before all this happened.
The convoy started out in California in late February and made stops all across the nation. And they're hoping to send the message today that they want all mandates to end now.
We want all mandates lifted all across the nation.
My guest today is Taylor Barker, an American trucker currently participating in the People's Convoy. In this episode, we discuss the convoy's goals, public reception while traveling across the country, if it's a partisan movement, media reactions, and more. Whether you agree or disagree with today's guest, I invite you to join us with an open mind as we work to heal the division on the People's Convoy. Taylor, thanks for joining me today. Who are you and why are you joining the podcast?
I'm Taylor Barker out of East Tennessee, and I'm joining the podcast just to let everybody know about my experiences of the People's Convoy.
Today is Monday, March 7th. So what is the state of the People's Convoy today?
Well, we're persistent, not giving up, and we're going to continue to do that as long as there's mandates that we feel are illegal.
What do you see as a desired goal of the People's Convoy?
The restoration of freedom, meaning the mandates that we find illegal. We just want our freedom back, and we want freedom for everybody back. Even as long as private sector businesses are requiring people to get the jab or lose their jobs. I understand it's private sector business, but it also, the way we interpret that, it violates the HIPAA laws. And if we allow this to happen, what's next? What are they going to do? How are they going to discriminate in the future? How worse will it get?
Is there a specific set of guidelines or criteria that you're continuing to protest until they're met?
Yes, the mandates, absolutely. Until the little kids don't have to wear masks in school, till the last person is not forced to be vaccinated, we're going to continue.
Are there members of the People's Convoy that also participated in the convoy up in Ottawa as well?
Well, as far as I know, yesterday was the first time that a member of the Ottawa convoy had joined us. I don't know the gentleman's name, but he was in the Ottawa convoy and protest, and he had come down to show his support to the American truckers.
Justin Trudeau called the Canadian Freedom Convoy a fringe minority. How would you evaluate the response of Americans to the People's Convoy?
Justin Trudeau bases his description with zero evidence. So there's that. As far as the Americans go, I mean, we have a constitution here, and that's what we are fighting for, is our freedom. And they can call it what they want to. That's what we're doing. We're fighting for our freedoms. And if people don't want to exercise their freedom, we have no problem with that. People want to get the jab, we have no problem with that. We're not anti-jab. We don't want to be forced. That's pretty much our mission statement.
Reading recent news on the People's Convoy, there's mixed reception of whether the convoy intends to actually enter DC proper itself. So what is the thought process on the People's Convoy of whether to actually go to downtown DC or not?
Let me just take an educated guess. That's the last option. If it was to happen, not saying it would or wouldn't, but that would be the absolute last resort. We have done everything legally. We have done everything with permits. We have been welcomed everywhere we've been, as far as where we camp out at. So everything we've done has been welcomed. I think that we will continue to circle the loop. I think we started out with 2 laps yesterday. I think they did 2 laps today with 2 lanes. And then tomorrow we might do 3 laps. And then the next day it might be 4 laps to get our point across. Because the longer we're on that, I think the quicker that somebody will respond to our needs, to our wants. And it's for the American people. It's not for us. This is zero to do with trucking. We have a shitty hand of cards dealt to us already in trucking with our regulations. This ain't even about the truckers. This is about America.
And so in completing these laps, what do you see as the ultimate disruptor?
Well, let me just speak for myself and not for the People's Convoy teams. Listen, I don't want to disrupt anybody, to be honest with you. We've gave advance notice, well advanced notice, what our mission statement is. We give our notice on our website of the convoy I'm following, and people know it's going to happen before it happens. If you're asking me if we plan on pulling the brakes, I don't support that. I don't plan on pulling the brakes and stopping in traffic, but we have a legal right to be there. We have a legal right to operate on interstates as much fuel tax as we pay. So I don't have a problem. I mean, traffic's traffic. I don't have a problem with it disrupting traffic like a little bit. But as far as stopping traffic, I don't support that because I think you're punishing the wrong people. I think the wrong people are actually being hurt, and it turns to support, you know.
What is a response, either positive or negative, that's taken you by surprise?
You know, that's actually a great question. I guess the most surprised I was when I first joined this convoy in California. I assumed it was just going to be a lot of conservatives protesting. The biggest shock that I had was this isn't just conservatives. This is Democrats. We've had a couple LGBT people there that are tired of the mandates. We've had Christians, atheists. I mean, we had a couple of folks that were Muslim. So people from all walks of life have been a part of this convoy. That was a shocker to me. I didn't expect to see those people there, to be honest with you. I just didn't think that I misjudged. I don't know, but I did not expect to see those people there. And they were there, and there were several of them painting up their cars with that chalk, liberals for freedom. And so I didn't expect to see that.
I believe the convoy started in California. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
During the journey, do you feel that the sentiment has changed state by state?
Well, that's a good question. Every state that I could recall has welcomed us, except at first Illinois got a little out there and threatened us. But we called their bluff and kind of explained to them that through a very powerful outreach that we are legal, law-abiding citizens and we have the legal right to travel. And we travel through that state. Our intentions were not to disrupt traffic. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't blame them in some way, because a few years ago there was some instances that happened with truckers up in Chicago, and it caused a lot of havoc. So I understand where they're coming from. I fully understand. But I think they just made up their mind before they actually researched us. Thought we were going to be a bunch of renegades and rogues, and we wasn't. You know, we did everything peaceful. So after the fact, they contacted us back and welcomed us. Our teams coordinated with their highway patrol, and we had a great time coming through, and you know, everybody breezed right through it in zero instances.
In your interactions that you've seen with the media, do you feel that there has been either dishonesty or the need to set some sort of contract with them?
I have been selective who I talk to, very selective. I have actually turned down several spots in the mainstream media to be interviewed because I feel like that should be done by the organizers. And I think we need to designate a few people to do these interviews so everybody's on the same page. Sometimes people aren't present for these meetings that we have, and they don't get all the information, so that person really has no business being interviewed. So, but anyway, I think that there's been a few that have been rejected because of their reputation of fake news. I think they have went out on a limb to purposely report negativity, such as the Daily Beast. Everybody sees past that. The American people know what we stand for, and the truth will always prevail. So I personally don't care what they write because nobody believes the fake news anyway.
From a politician, is there a response either praising or criticizing the People's Convoy that has stood out to you?
No, I think once they realize what it's about, it's more than truckers. You know, we're not just doing this for truckers. It's for Americans. And, you know, we're doing it for doctors. We're doing it for pilots. You know, we've had several doctors with us. We've had several airline pilots. We've had a lot of truckers. We've had just Americans in general. We had one guy that was a soldier that was kicked out of the military, you know, because he didn't want to get an experimental drug forced upon him. So no, once I think that these politicians, we've had several from both sides of the fence come and speak, and it's actually been kind of pleasant.
Do you feel that the People's Convoy has become a movement amongst party lines?
I think that's a fake news talking point. I think that just based on what I've seen, we've had several Democrats that are just equally as pissed as Republicans. I don't even think this is a Democrat-Republican thing anymore. I think Americans are waking up, and this has become an American thing, a bipartisan American thing. So based on our crowds, we have a lot of people waving Trump flags. Nobody directly from the People's Convoy are waving Trump flags. This is not a Trump rally. And I think the Democrats, especially one that I've actually had a chance to get to know, was actually quite concerned about that at first. And until she started talking to people and realized that, they're just flags. And these people aren't what the media has represented them to her to be. And she found out for herself. And once she found out for herself, she realized just how full of crap that the fake news was. This is for everybody. This ain't one side or the other. It's just an American movement. It's not a Democrat or a left or a right thing.
Is there a piece of criticism that you feel has been valid for the People's Convoy?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm very, very impressed with the organization of this convoy, because in past convoys that we've tried to create, in past movements that we've tried to create, it's hard to get 100 trucks in one place. And to have Oklahoma, I believe it was the Oklahoma State Police, their words, not ours, our movement was over 30 miles. Okay, that's a lot more than 100 trucks. So I credit that to the team that is organizing this convoy for the American people. These guys are just phenomenal. They have 10 meetings a day, constantly monitoring, changing. We got security. They're doing an amazing job. This is more than truck drivers organizing a convoy. This is highly planned out. We contact the authorities everywhere we go, and we set up meetings with them 2 or 3 days ahead of time. And it's just very, very well orchestrated. And I'm very proud to have been part of the convoy under their leadership. As far as the negative goes, I'm there. Who's people going to believe? The truckers that are there and seeing this happen, or the Democrats that are there seeing this happen, or some 23-year-old journalist that doesn't know horse shit from apple butter that just wants to portray us as a bunch of hate groups? Nobody's buying it no more. We're there. We see it. We see it live. We live in it, and it's coming from different sides. So this is an American movement. And as far as the hate or the criticism, we don't even pay attention to it. We just focused on the positivity.
Now, you mentioned law enforcement, and speaking with law enforcement ahead of time, something I witnessed in Ottawa is it seemed like law enforcement was in a tough position where they were under orders to help try to shut down the convoy, but at the same time, find the balance between respectful protest and putting their own job security at risk if they're not following orders. What would you say to someone in law enforcement that may agree with what you're doing, but is under orders to help try to prevent what you're doing?
That's a tough question for me to answer, because you're comparing the American convoy with the Canadian convoy, and they're two different convoys, two different movements. But what I would say to the police is thank you for your service.
What is something about the trucking industry or your profession as a trucker that you feel that the American population overlooks or should know?
Our generosity. It's like one big happy family. But now let me point one thing out. Just a little bit different as of now. We've learned a lot from the Canadians, and we support the Canadians. But the Canadians went to Ottawa and shut down their trucks. Okay, we have not done that. We have been welcomed everywhere we've been. So it's kind of hard to compare the two outcomes, because first off, one is completed and one is in process. And we have no intentions on shutting down anything. We just want to be heard. And it's not to ask for our government to hear us. It's to meet with us, our leaders, and speak with us. That's all we want. The Ottawa convoy, it was actually, they shut their brakes down and caused a lot of the blowing of horns in the 2 o'clock in the afternoon or the morning. And it really pissed a lot of people off that lived locally there. And I understand that on both sides, but we have been welcomed 100% everywhere we've been. So there has not been that outrage of blowing horns at 2 o'clock in the morning complaints. We have been welcomed everywhere. So obviously the outcome is going to be different. And they're kind of, in my opinion, I don't even think that the two are comparable.
Do you think that this convoy has started a long-term movement to change the industry of trucking?
Yeah, I think so. First off, I'll mention again, this convoy has nothing to do with trucking. In the trucking world, we have failed to get support. And sometimes it could have been our fault, and sometimes it wasn't, maybe, from the American people. But now the American people are seeing what we're doing and have offered their support. And the fact, even the Canadian people, I mean, they had what, $10 million in donations. And then the second time they had $8 million. So nearly $20 million. I think that says a lot in support of the general public. And then our movement, we've only taken donations on our website. And I think it's up to 1.5, 1.6 million. That money is donated by the hardworking American people, and it's been used for fuel, lodging, and stuff like that where we're staying. So, yeah, we have the support of the American people, and hopefully in the future we can rely on them to get behind us and make changes for the American people using truckers to help in the future.
Is there a final thought or message that you have for listeners?
I just want to reemphasize, this is an American move. It's not a left or right. This is just a lot of different Americans from different walks of life pissed off, and they want change. They're tired of being told what to do. And I'm one of them. I don't want to be told what to do, or I don't want experimental drugs forced in my body. Until they end the mandates, we are going to be a loud voice. This is just my opinions. Everything that I've said tonight is just my opinion, and I do not represent the leadership of the People's Convoy. I'm just a member of the crowd, a random driver that participated. So, and my opinion may vary from theirs in some of the things I said. So just want to clarify that.
Well, with that said, Taylor, I do appreciate the time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you now.
Whether you agree or disagree with today's guests, I thank you for joining us with an open mind. If there's a guest or topic you'd like to have on the show, you can message me on all social media platforms through the handle Heal Our Division. Take care and stay kind. We have more in common than that which divides us.